What if the person who has long stood closest to a megastar, yet has almost never been in the spotlight, suddenly broke the silence and said something unplanned, unpolished, and precisely because of that, left the world stunned? This is the question now hanging in the minds of the global public, as a simple Instagram post has unexpectedly triggered waves of speculation, emotion, and deep reflection about who Jungkook truly is behind the grand stage of K-pop. There was no press conference, no official statement from the agency, nor any structured clarification. There was only the voice of a translator, someone long considered neutral, technical, even invisible. And yet it was from that very place that a side of Jungkook never shown to the public began to be revealed. The name Claire Hae or Hae Lee is not actually familiar to BTS fans. She is not a producer, not a lead journalist, nor a stylist or photographer who often appears behind the scenes of major photo shoots. She is an interpreter, a bridge between languages, someone tasked with ensuring that meaning moves accurately from one language to another. Yet it is precisely this position that makes her confession feel so unsettling to the long-established narrative. When Claire Hae wrote about her experience as the interpreter for Jungkook's exclusive interview with Rolling Stone, her sentences felt like more than professional praise. There was a raw honesty in her tone, an uncurated emotion, and a sense that what she witnessed went beyond the formal boundaries of an interview session. The post spread at a speed that was impossible to ignore. Within hours, fans began asking questions. Why did an interpreter feel the need to emphasize that Jungkook was the most sincere and humble artist she had ever met? Why were words like open, comfortable, and showing his true self repeated with such strong emotional emphasis? Isn't the entertainment industry, especially K-pop, known for tight image control, meticulously designed concepts, and personas curated with precision? At this point, Claire Hae's confession felt like a small crack in the massive wall that has long separated the public from the reality behind the scenes. The interview that formed the backdrop of this confession was no ordinary project. It involved a cross-country collaboration between Rolling Stone Korea, the UK, and Japan, working together with the global fashion brand Calvin Klein. This was an international standard project, involving top teams from various disciplines: fashion, makeup, photography, creative planning, and editorial writing. In an ecosystem this large, every detail is usually planned, every gesture considered, every word weighed. Yet Claire Hae described a different atmosphere, a gathering of the world's best professionals that felt like witnessing art in its purest form. With Jungkook as its emotional center of gravity as an interpreter, Claire Hae's role went beyond translating word for word. She gathered questions from teams in Korea, the UK, and Japan, then conveyed Jungkook's answers with accuracy of meaning and nuance. This meant she stood at the heart of the most intimate communication process, hearing Jungkook's answers directly before the outside world touched them, understanding the context before it was packaged into a public narrative. When she called Jungkook the most down-to-earth artist she had ever met, that statement did not come from a fan's perspective, but from someone accustomed to working with many public figures across industries and cultures. Here lies the first surprise that left many people silent. Claire Hae did not speak of Jungkook as a perfect idol or a global icon in a cliched sense. She spoke about sincerity, about Jungkook's comfort in showing his playful side, about how he did not appear burdened by the enormous expectations attached to his name. These sentences, though seemingly simple, felt provocative because they contradicted the common assumption that behind such immense popularity there must be distance, walls, and extreme caution. Yet this confession suggested that perhaps the opposite was true. The interview article was later published in Rolling Stone Korea, the UK, and Japan, with digital versions spreading widely to countries such as India, France, Brazil, and China. This global distribution meant that every detail, every quote, and every narrative resonated across cultures. Ironically, however, it was not only the official interview content that became a topic of discussion, but the emotional context built by the interpreter's confession. The public began rereading Jungkook, No Limits, through a new lens, searching for small signals that may have previously been overlooked. And the main Rolling Stone UK interview, Jungkook spoke about his career journey after completing 18 months of mandatory military service, during which he served as a cook. He revealed how being separated from music actually built a deep sense of longing, pushing him to return with a different spirit. His words sounded reflective, almost contemplative, far removed from stage euphoria and stadium cheers. "It built longing," he said. A simple admission, yet one filled with meaning. Behind that sentence, many now ask, is this the side of Jungkook that Claire Hay meant? A musician who reflects more deeply than we have imagined? The success of his solo album Golden in 2023, with more than 6 billion streams on Spotify, as well as the single 7 Feet Lato, as a defining moment in his career, is often read as the peak of commercial achievement. Yet in the context of the interpreter's confession, these numbers feel like background rather than the core of the story. The focus shifts from achievement to process, from image to authenticity. Jungkook speaks not only about what he has achieved, but about what he wants to develop, including his desire to improve his dancing skills, especially street dance, and his focus on personal growth in the present. Claire Hay described the photoshoot day as an almost indescribable experience, a moment when the world's best professionals came together to create a single masterpiece. Yet once again, her emotional spotlight did not fall on the grandeur of the production, but on Jungkook himself. She closed her post by thanking the entire team, accompanied by heart and praying hand emojis, a small gesture that only strengthened the impression that the experience left a deep personal mark. Fan reactions were no less intense. ARMY widely shared the post on social media, especially on X, where one fan account's post was reportedly viewed more than 12,000 times. This number may seem small compared to BTS's global scale, but its significance lies in the context. This was not an official promotion, not a music teaser, but an emotional resonance sparked by a translator's confession. With BTS's return drawing ever closer, this moment feels like a quiet reminder that behind grand strategies and global plans, there is a human being named Jungkook, continually searching for meaning in his art. If language is a tool for conveying meaning, then emotion is often something that is difficult to translate without leaving traces behind. This is the gray area that is rarely discussed, the space where an interpreter like Claire Hay stands every time Jungkook opens his mouth to answer a question. She does not merely transfer words from one language to another, but filters tone of voice, pauses in breathing, choices of diction, and even facial expressions that never appear in an official transcript. And it is precisely within this space that many now believe Jungkook's most honest side has slowly surfaced, without planning, without strategy, and perhaps without the owner of that voice even realizing it himself. In the dynamics of international interviews, especially those involving a publication as prominent as Rolling Stone, every question is usually designed with precision. There is a narrative framework, an editorial angle, and global reader expectations that must be met. Yet Jungkook, according to the impression captured by Claire Hay, did not seem trapped within that pattern. He answered with reflections that felt personal, sometimes pausing briefly as if to ensure that what he was saying truly represented his thoughts, rather than being a merely safe answer. For an interpreter accustomed to working with major artists, moments like these are not common. This is where the second clue emerges, prompting the public to reread every sentence. Jungkook spoke with a subtle yet intense sense of suspicion. When Jungkook spoke about his mandatory military service as a cook, the narrative that emerged was neither heroic nor a romanticized portrayal of duty. He spoke about limitations, about the distance that was forcibly created between himself and music, about restrained desire. In an entertainment world that often polishes difficult experiences into instantly inspirational stories, Jungkook's admission felt almost too honest. He did not hide his frustration, yet he did not complain. He chose the word longing as the center of his emotion. A simple word, yet one loaded with psychological meaning. At this point, many readers began to feel something different, as if Jungkook was not speaking as an idol, but as an individual engaged in a dialogue with himself. Claire Hay, as the person standing precisely between Jungkook and the world, captured this nuance directly. In her post, she did not highlight a specific quote, nor did she reveal exclusive details that had not yet been published. Yet it was precisely this choice not to disclose details that sparked even greater curiosity. Why did she feel compelled to state that Jungkook was the most sincere artist she had ever met? What made her emphasize that Jungkook was comfortable showing his playful side? as if she wanted to stress that this cheerfulness was not part of a prepared concept. In an industry often accused of creating distance between image and reality, such statements feel like a small yet significant disruption. Many fans began to wonder whether they had only ever seen Jungkook through a lens filtered by cameras, agencies, and public expectations. The Rolling Stone interview, which was meant to be a space for artistic reflection, is now being read as a document that may contain hidden layers of meaning. Every pause in Jungkook's sentences, every seemingly simple word choice, is being analyzed with almost academic intensity by fans and pop culture observers. Jungkook's commercial success, reflected in streaming numbers and global achievements, is often cited as proof that he has reached everything. Yet this interview instead opens a discussion about the paradox of success. The higher the achievement, the greater the pressure to maintain a certain image. When Jungkook speaks about focusing on the present and his desire to be an artist without limits, many read this as a subtle signal that he is standing at an important crossroads. Does without limits mean greater artistic freedom? Or is it a sign that he wants to shed some of the expectations that have long been attached to him? Claire Hay described the day of the photo shoot as a gathering of the world's best professionals, an environment that could easily make anyone feel small or intimidated. Yet Jungkook, according to her impression, appeared comfortable, as if he were not under the scrutiny of dozens of expert eyes ready to evaluate his every move. This impression matters because it challenges the assumption that a global idol is always living in a state of vigilance. If Jungkook truly can remain that calm in a high-pressure environment, then a further question arises. Where does that calm come from, and what has changed within him? Public reaction to Claire Hay's post also reflects an emotional need that goes beyond mere consumption of entertainment news. ARMY did not simply reshare the post as a form of support, but also as a way to validate their own feelings. For years, BTS fans have been known to form strong emotional bonds with the members, often seeing them as sources of inspiration and comfort. A confession from an industry professional with no fandom agenda felt like external validation of a long-held belief that Jungkook truly is different. Yet beneath the euphoria, there is also a darker layer of reflection. If Jungkook is indeed showing his true self more openly, does this mean he is ready to face the consequences of such honesty? In global pop culture, authenticity is often praised, but it can also be a double-edged sword. Every personal admission carries the risk of being misinterpreted, taken out of context, or even politicized by media narratives. This is where the role of an interpreter once again feels crucial, as she becomes the first witness to words before they are transformed into mass consumption. The interview Jungkook, No Limits now no longer stands merely as a journalistic work, but as a starting point for a broader discussion about identity, honesty, and the boundaries a global artist seeks to transcend. Claire Hay may not fully realize the impact of her post, but her voice has opened a door to new interpretations. She offers clues, not answers, sparks curiosity, not conclusions, and it is precisely there that its power lies. What happens when a small confession turns into a large echo that is difficult to stop? This is the point at which the story of Jungkook, Rolling Stone, and the voice of a translator begins to move beyond the interview space and enter a more sensitive territory: public perception. Claire Hay's post is no longer read merely as a professional testimonial, but as a signal that Jungkook is entering a new phase, a phase in which honesty is no longer neatly stored behind concepts, but allowed to breathe in open space. Even when the risks are high in the global entertainment world, every major narrative is always accompanied by control. Yet the public response to this interview suggests something different. There is not a single sentence from Jungkook that exploded into controversy, no extreme confession, no statement that explicitly shook the industry. And yet, it is precisely this calmness that feels surprising. Many have begun to ask, why does this interview feel deeper than previous ones? Why do admissions about longing, about focusing on the present, and about the desire to become an artist without limits trigger such a wide emotional response? The answer may lie in the context of time. After mandatory military service, after massive solo success, and amid preparations for BTS's return, Jungkook stands at a crossroads rarely experienced by artists his age. He is no longer in a phase of proving himself, Yet he has not fully arrived at a place of complete security. In this condition, every word he speaks carries greater weight. When Claire Hay said that Jungkook was comfortable showing his true self, the public began to realize that comfort itself is the most radical statement of all. The reaction of ARMY, who continue to circulate the post, shows that fans are not merely seeking sensation but connection. Amid the flow of fast content and instant news, this story offers something slower and more reflective. It invites readers to pause and ask, do we truly know the public figures we admire? Or do we only know the versions that are safe for consumption? In this context, Jungkook appears as someone trying to bridge those two worlds. Interestingly, there has been no follow-up clarification, no denial, and no attempt to dampen the growing interpretations. This silence instead strengthens the narrative that what is happening is not a communication mistake, but part of an ongoing process. Jungkook continues to be in the studio with the other BTS members, preparing a new album, as if to say that this journey does not stop at a single interview. He keeps moving forward, while the public continues to interpret. In the end, this exclusive interview may be remembered not for a single quote, but for the atmosphere of honesty that surrounds it. Claire Hay, perhaps without realizing it, has opened a small window that reveals that behind the global spotlight, Jungkook remains an artist who longs, grows, and seeks new boundaries to cross. And perhaps that is where the greatest surprise of this story lies. Not in what is revealed, but in the courage to let the world see that authenticity is real, fragile, and still unfolding. Going forward, the echo of this interview is expected not to stop as a momentary topic of discussion on social media. It has the potential to become an important reference point in reading a new phase of Jungkook as a global artist who is increasingly aware of his position and emotional responsibility. Without the need for grand declarations or an open manifesto, Jungkook seems to be conveying a quiet message that an artistic journey is not only about achievement, but about the courage to remain honest amid ever-growing expectations. In the post-interview silence, the public is now waiting not merely for new work, but for the continuation of a narrative of authenticity that has begun to take shape. A narrative that may determine how Jungkook is remembered in the future, not only as a star, but as a human being who chooses to be fully present in every step he takes.